Let's take a look at the Memphis Grizzlies, their season in review, and what can it mean moving forward, Michael Bolton?
Thanks, Josh. It's Michael Bolton here, and it's time for another episode of the Locked On Fantasy Basketball Podcast. Let's get to it.
Let's get to it, indeed.
You are Locked On Fantasy, your daily NBA fantasy podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello and welcome to the Locked On Fantasy Basketball Podcast, brought to you by Basketball Monster. My name is Josh Lloyd, and I don't do if, buts, and maybes. I do absolutes. That's a terrible Liverpool accent, but that's okay, because I'm also the lead fantasy analyst at basketballmonster.com. And today's episode is brought to you by Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use the code LOCKEDONNBA for $20 off your first purchase. Thank you also for making Locked On Fantasy Basketball your first listen every day. We are free. We are available on all platforms. Double bang, please. Live draft show, 8 p.m. Eastern, Wednesday, 25th of June. The link is up on YouTube. It's the pinned video. It'll be in the description of this show as well on video too. Join me for the draft, and we'll chop it up. As I think they say that. We're talking Grizzlies here on World Jaguar Day. World Jaguar Day. You a jaguar or a leopard guy? Isn't a jaguar just a leopard? Or did I misremember that? I don't know. Doesn't really matter. Let's talk about this Memphis Grizzlies team where they were in prime position. They were looking pretty good early in the season. Of course, Morant couldn't play more than 5 games in a row. And then things started to go very much off the rails. Was it driven by the fact that their front office made some absolutely horrific decisions at the trade deadline? No, but they did make those. They made absolutely horrific decisions. And part of the reason, I will always get into arguments with fans of teams who, they like the taste of the boot. That's okay for them. It's their team, and they'll defend everything the team does at all points. But like I'll always say, I'm always making criticisms of the team, not to criticize the fans, but to criticize the ownership and the management who is putting out a subpar product for the fans. And if the fans just go along with stuff that management does, they'll just keep doing that. So the idea that the Grizzlies made trades to send out rotation players from their team with draft picks in order to save money in the next offseason is detrimental to the fans' experience. Trading away Marcus Smart, trading away Jake LaRavia, along with draft picks to receive back Marvin Bagley and Johnny Davis, who they cut, also they could allegedly create room to re-sign contract extensions for Santi Aldama and Jaren Jackson in the offseason, is a cop-out. They took a team that was the 2 or the 3 seed at the time, deliberately made them worse, and gave away assets in the process. And that is what I'm angry about. The firing of Taylor Jenkins, whatever. I don't know the internal stuff. He seemed to be doing a pretty good job with some of the stuff that was going on there. I also think that Thomas Yasalo is going to be a solid coach. I don't know enough about it, but we don't always see this with interim coaches, but we did see a change of philosophy. Yasalo came in, and they went heavily into Zach Edey. Unfortunately, Edey's not going to be available to begin the season, being out for 4 months with ankle surgery, which is not great. And Brandon Clarke's going to be out to begin the season as well, it seems. So the front office, which at the moment, I don't trust at all, given they used to be some of the best front office moves that we've seen. But they've made some horrific decisions. Trading up to get Zaire Williams. Trading for the draft pick that became David Roddy by giving away D'Anthony Melton. Giving away these players to save money to make your active team worse when they are, and you'll see that they're big 3 players, they're all prime players. They're 26, 27 years old. This is their prime. You need to hit it now. Steven Adams was a key piece for the Rockets. What did the Grizzlies do? Dumped him. They are, and this is at behest of ownership, they are saving the owner's money and not making the team better. They still ended up 48-34. Obviously, they got absolutely cooked in the playoffs by the Thunder, but they did make the playoffs. And they don't have the first round pick because, of course, they sent that in order to be able to get rid of Marcus Smart. Again, absolutely zero need to do it. Zero need, and I don't even, if you think you've got a reason why they needed to do it, you can write it. It's wrong, but you can write it. So they don't have a pick until pick 48. And they got pick 56 as well. Whoop-de-doo. Cool. Am I negative towards this team at the moment? Yeah, I'm annoyed because they were a team that was good. And they should have been good. And I think that there's been a lot of missteps from this team over the last couple of years that has pushed them into this position they didn't need to be in. In terms of free agents, one of them is the guy that we needed to clear all the cap space for, Santi Aldama, who's a restricted free agent. I'm not sure he's going to get that much money, to be honest. The other two are Yuki Karamura and Cam Spencer, two of their two-way guys. Karamura barely played. I think he's too small for the NBA, unfortunately for him. Cam Spencer, yeah, I think he can become a rotation or rotation adjacent type of point guard, and he probably comes back on a full sort of contract, minimum, but full contract. And then the unrestricted guys, well, it is, of course, the legend himself, Marvin Bagley. Luke Kennard, and I'm not sure, he did suffer a big drop this season, Kennard, and he's been around on this team for a while and been useful. Not certain he returns, and the other one is Lamar Stevens, who was signed late in the season, and he was playing some minutes on this squad. But he doesn't solve their problem of, hey, we have no centers heading into next season. So there's not big names there. Kennard is a rotation piece. Aldama's a rotation piece, and they'll probably bring him back. But that's realistically where we're at with this squad. Let's start talking about their players, though, now. Again, that sounds like I was being harsh, and I should have been harsh on them because they have made some horrific decisions. Let's talk about Des Bane. He is one of the big three. He was the ranked the highest for fantasy this season on this team. He's the oldest of their big three. He's 27. He had a 23 usage. He played 32 minutes. He played 69 games after missing the end of last season, which, oh, by the way, you want me to criticize the Grizzlies again? The biggest liars that are out there in terms of injury designations and diagnoses. They will put out a statement, a grade 3 ankle sprain, and the bloke's back in 2 weeks. That's not how grade 3 works. They did it with Bane last season. They did it with Jackson this season. So we have to remember that. And they've been like this for years. Misdiagnosing or misannouncing Michael Conley's Achilles injury. Misdiagnosing, whatever you want to call it. Jaren Jackson's, was it knee or foot? I don't remember. But kept giving fake timelines. They do this all the time. They are the worst, number one injury reporting team consistently in the NBA. They've got challenges from the Bulls and the Hornets and the Magic. This is the worst. This team is the worst. So anyway, Bane battled back bravely from his grade 3 ankle sprain last season. He ended up playing those 69 games this season. He averaged 19.6 rebounds and 5.5 assists. 2.4 threes. 89 from the line, 39 from 3, 48 overall. These are really solid numbers. He was the 32nd ranked player. He was 51st in points leagues. He was better post-trade deadline. The thing with all of these Grizzlies players is it's going to be really hard to judge all of this stuff with Memphis is because I can't even say, well, he did this without Ja. Or he did this with Ja. Because Morant was in and out and in and out and in and out. It's like watching Bonnie Blue. Hey! So you never got like, well, here's the 2 months that Ja Morant was out. Here's the months that he was in. Because it was all over the shop. But we got more Morant this season than 9 games last season, so we did see a scale back from Bane. And what we get here from him, 19, 6, and 5 with 1.2 steals, 2.4 threes, absolutely zero reason that can't be repeatable. He's 27. Why can't he do this for 3 more years? It is possible. These are 20 point per game score. He's 19.2. He's there already. And we can see some of the impact stuff. It dipped a little bit. Again, that is more of the presence of Morant. Bane sort of held steady. He passes very well for a shooting guard. He is obviously small. He defends okay without being great. I don't think there's much to talk about here with Bane, honestly. Outside of in round 4, he'll be pretty solid. Round 3, not a bad pick. And we'll just see where it fits. You know, you lean a little bit more towards that back end round 4 for points. Early round 4, late round 3 for categories. Cool. Second half of the year, much better than the first. That's okay as well. And we'll see what happens with Yasala. But we know that Bane's going to start, and we know it's going to be next to Morant. And we know it's going to be next to Jaren Jackson. There's no real intrigue with that sort of stuff. So we know which direction that's going to head. We'll come back and talk about Jaren and Ja coming up. Today's episode, though, is brought to you by Wayfair. It's the summer. The weather is warmer, and you can step out into your outdoor space, and you can feel like you've escaped to a personal oasis. I'd love to escape to a personal oasis. It's freezing here, but you guys, up in summer, you've got to get that outdoor area ready because you can get out there onto your patio, updated with all the stuff that you can find at Wayfair. Everything you need that you can level up your outdoor space with. Conversation sets, outdoor bars, fire pits, gazebos, string lights, the big hot tub. It's all there to give your backyard that resort feel without the resort price tag. Delivery is also free, it's fast, and more importantly, or equally importantly, depending on how you prioritize these things, it's hassle-free, even with the larger items. So don't wait. Make your outdoor space your dream oasis today with Wayfair and enjoy it all summer long. Head to wayfair.com right now to shop a huge outdoor selection. That is WAYFAIR.com. Wayfair, every style and every home. I know I always say every style and every home because the copy is just every style, every home. So my apologies to you guys at Wayfair. Let's talk more Grizzlies. We talked Des Bane already. Let's talk about the next best fantasy contributor on this team, and it is Triple J, Jaren Jackson Jr., who the Grizzlies, and this is why some of these contract and CBA scenarios are pretty whack, because the Grizzlies will be very happy that he didn't make All-NBA. Now, he 100% should have made All-NBA, I think, but he didn't, so they can't pay him as much. And he would have deserved that full max, or they would have had to pay it to him. Now, I don't think there's any risk that he leaves or anything like that, because they literally just can't pay it anymore. He's 26. He had a 28 usage. It is a little bit stunning to see Jackson with that high of a usage when Bane was at 23. Okay, that's a little odd, but Jackson has really evolved offensively. Defensively, he's still excellent. He's not as good as that one season where he dominated, but he has evolved offensively. He averaged 22 points with 2 threes. Of course, I know what the criticism is going to be. How are you 6'11" and you can't get rebounds? It just is how some people are. Miles Turner, Brook Lopez. Just some of the players are like that. Doesn't mean he's not good. 5 rebounds in fantasy, though, we have to understand that that is a restriction or a limitation in his game, and I don't think it's changing any point soon. 38 from 3, 78 from the line, 49 from the field. He can easily hit 50 from the field without question, but you'll notice that in the past we had 3 block seasons from him. 1.5 now. 42nd percentile in rim contests. As you get older, your rim contests drop, your blocks drop. As you get older, you try and stay out of foul trouble more. He's not great at that, but you do stay out of it more. As you expend more energy on offense and become more of a focal point offensively, you do less on defense. And as you can see, Jaren Jackson, usage way up, blocks way down. And I don't really think that that's going to be any position to change, to be honest. Now, it is true that he played less minutes at center this season because of the presence of Edey, who won't be there to begin next season. So he could open the season because, again, who else is it going to be? He might have to be their starting center. And I don't actually hate that. I think he's pretty good as a starting center. So that might give him an initial boost next season. But you'll also note, post-trade deadline, he was the 83rd ranked player. Overall, 45th and 42nd in points leagues. Again, I thought what he did offensively was really impressive. I thought it was great to be able to see that. And he also gave you 1.2 steals as well. The question here is going to be, in terms of evaluating him, this is peak. We are hitting prime Jaren Jackson right now. Still probably a couple more steps we can get to. Small ones, but we can get there. But is he a second round guy? Absolutely not. Is he a third round guy? I'd be very skeptical of that. Is he he played 74 games, which is clearly great. And his Yahoo 9-cat total will tell you he was 16th. And you know what to do with that, don't you? You know, you go, absolutely no chance. He's not a middle of the second round player. What we need to do with this is figure out where that value sits. I think, we're talking about 45th for the season and 32 and 83 is the pre-post deadline splits. Okay, it's an interesting story. He probably is a 4th round guy who will almost certainly go in the 3rd round, which means, some of us won't grab him. But if you did jump up and took him at pick 34, who cares? I don't think that's a disastrous decision. Now, it is disastrous if he finishes 80th, but I do think that the absence of Edey will probably help. And we can look at some of these numbers and go, what there can't he do, and what there could he improve, or what there could get worse. I guess he might not average 1.2 steals. I don't think there's much else that changes. Maybe the usage does fall away. What about if the field goals jump to 51 though? Okay, now we're cooking. So I think 4th round for the next few years is solid. And if Morant is out for longer than he was, you might actually see Jaren do more than this. So I do think that it's a little bit of a floor value here for Jackson. And while the blocks have normalized, it enables everything else to come more into focus. And that's fine. Let's talk about Morant, who is simultaneously overrated and underrated in fantasy. Because you will get the arguments of people who'll be like, well, Ja Morant's a 2nd round player. You'll see him, and I'm pretty sure if I'd have a look at this, his ADP on Yahoo was 35. Okay? Which he'd never had a standard category league rank anywhere near that. But there'll be people who tell you that he should be drafted at 90 or 80, which of course is foolish, based on per game numbers. But we have to be having discussions now about Morant with a couple of reasons. We've already had them, but we are firmly in this zone now. He played 50 games. He played just 30 minutes. So number one, you look at 30 minutes and you go, it's low. We know why. That'll go up. If games go up, minutes will go up. No question about that. 32 usage, he's age 26. He was the 55th ranked player, 37th in points, which for him is really bad for points because he can be a 16th, 17th, 10th best player. He averages 40 fantasy points. He got a little bit better after the deadline. Averaged 23, 4 and 7, 1.2 steals, 1.8 threes. Shot 82 from the line. Remember that, because one of the criticisms of him is bad percentages. That's good percentage. Doesn't hit threes, never will at a high rate. Although he hit 1.8, that's not disastrous. Yes? What the discussion we need to have is, look at his offensive load and his passing creation volume and time on ball, all very high. DPM had him as a positive in Delta, 80th percentile. Drip had him 18th, which I don't really agree with. But it comes back to the injury. And while he hasn't necessarily had a singular body part fail over and over again, apart from his brain, but that actually does seem to be in the past. Fingers crossed. Knock on wood. It's the worry you have to have with Morant is play style. And the play style, the aggression, his body, the jumping, the attacking, leading to hard falls, has led to a lot of injuries. And there's two ways this goes. And he already sort of pulled it back this season a bit already. But if he keeps going and playing in that same hyper-aggressive, throw things at the wall, see what goes on mode, he will not play 75 games in a season ever. He will get hurt, and then we will see injuries add up, and he will wash out of the league and not be impactful. Yes? I think we agree on that. If he keeps going like that and attempting these crazy dunks, getting undercut all the time because of the insane way that he leaps at things and just the aggression, which is part of the appeal of Morant. If he does that, the injuries will continue to mount and it will cut his career short. The flip side is if he pulls his game back and isn't hyper-aggressive and isn't fast and leaping and doing the things that cause the injuries, well, that means he's not Morant anymore. And it means some of the stuff that he does in terms of opening up passing lanes and enabling scoring at the rim and his usage and all of the stuff that makes Morant, it will have to be toned down. And I think, again, he did that a little bit this season, hence why his fantasy points numbers are a bit lower. And he only played 30 minutes a game. So while he's still just 26, we're talking pre-prime realistically for Morant, I think his prime is earlier than others because of the injuries and the athleticism stuff. And the fact that in order to extend his prime or extend his career or keep his career at a normal level, he has to actually pull back on his playing style. And I think that is leading to concerns. Now, again, I think he's simultaneously over and underrated. Because there'll be people like, I'm not touching him. He's bad. He's never a top 50 fantasy guy. He's barely a top 100 player and he's hurt. I'm not touching him. I think that's underrating him. But there'll be others like, nah, he's awesome. He's excellent. I think he's a top 30 guy. I'll happily go that direction. And that's where I don't realistically believe it. I think that he could have been a top 30 category league guy had the play style not led to as many injuries. But it has. And it's going to require one of those two things. A change in style or more injuries. Which means you can't value him that way. So we look at what he did, where he's 55th, 44th post-deadline. We can easily add more minutes onto the 30 minutes. But we get to 33 minutes, and then do we pull back some of the Morantness of his game? It probably leaves him around 45, I would say. And for the next 3 years, why wouldn't he be able to maintain some of these things? I think that's fine. Unless he turns into a 36% three-point shooter, and then his ability to be less Morant is offset by being able to do some other things. So I think I'm going to end on the side of underrated, especially in category leagues for Morant, but there are numerous factors there that we do need to pay attention to. That's the big three. Let's talk Brandon Clarke now, a guy that in the past has had excellent fantasy profile. Big field goals, huge free throws, steals, blocks, rebounds, at times sneaky passing. But now we're talking about a guy coming off an Achilles injury who also now hurt his knee with a serious knee injury which probably jeopardizes the start of next season. He's also 29. He's also got Zach Edey and Jaren Jackson ahead of him. He's going to be resigned to being a backup. Now, I still think he's quite a good player. But he's a low-usage player who still does a lot of good things defensively. He's still incredibly efficient outside of shooting 6% on threes. Not a misprint, 6. His ability to be a 24-minute-a-night top 110 fantasy player is probably done. There were times where we thought he could work as a power forward. I also don't think that he necessarily can do that anymore. And I think we're turning him into a backup 5 who does work alongside Jaren Jackson, but multiple debilitating knee injuries, age already catching up, he's already 29, means that those ideas of like, whoa, Brandon Clarke is a nice fantasy option, he's this great category guy, I don't think that is true anymore. He's still pretty good. Like, there's still things that look solid about it. But to the level that it used to be at, I think that's sailed. Injuries and age, it's caught up to him. I think that ship has sailed. Today's episode is also brought to you by the Game Time app, and the NBA Finals are on. The intensity, the buzzer beaters, the fans, they're losing their minds. It's the atmosphere that you love. That's why you want to go see live sports, especially high-stakes games like the NBA playoffs. And with killer last-minute deals, prices on the Game Time app drop closer to tip-off. Well, it's the best thing to do to go and see it. That's why Game Time is a game changer. You can check all of those NBA Finals tickets. You can check Stanley Cup tickets if you want. You can check Major League Baseball heading into the All-Star break over there as well. You maybe even get tickets for the upcoming football season. Concerts, events, comedy, it's all there on Game Time. Views from your seat, no surprise fees. I don't know what more you could possibly ask for. So take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use the code LOCKEDONNBA for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create the account and redeem the code LOCKEDONNBA for $20 off. Download the Game Time app today. Last minute tickets, lowest price guaranteed. Okay, let's get into a few more of these over 25s on this Memphis Grizzlies squad. We've talked about the big names. Now we talk about the not so big names. The Duck, Luke Kennard. Legitimately, one of the best three-point shooters ever in NBA history. It doesn't seem to matter. Every time you just look at the end of the season and go, yeah, he shot 46% from 3. So it was a down year for Kennard. He hit 43. Go and look at it. Go and look at his three-point shooting numbers over his career. It's actually insane. Now, he doesn't have to do it to the degree of difficulty that Steph does in off-the-dribble shooting, but these are insane numbers. But that's what it is. Now, Taylor Jenkins and the Grizzlies, experimented quite a bit with playing Luke Kennard as a starting point guard when Morant went down, even though Scott Pippen was there. He was ahead of Pippen. And then by the end of the season, he wasn't. And Kennard, also, like Brandon Clarke, is 29. He had only 14 usage and played 23 minutes. And he was 250th for the season, and you'll notice the split pre and post deadline, 197th pre, 283rd post, because they made the switch back to Scott Pippen, and it worked out really well. And I think that Kennard showed signs of aging hitting. The shooting's still fine, but everything else, which is a liability for him, rim finishing, attacking the rim, defense in particular, when you get past that prime, it's a real problem. And that's where we're at with him. 79th percentile in passing creation volume is still a really good number for a guy that was never considered a passer. And he played a lot more point guard this season. As you'll notice, 3.3 assists in 23 minutes. You're talking about almost 5 assists per 30. It's not bad for a guy that you don't really associate that with. But he is an unrestricted free agent now, and I'm not sure that he's going to be back in Memphis. He's not going to hold that point guard role with Pippen and Morant there and whatever else they do. So he's going to move into that grouping of guys where we talk about it all the time. Hey, can I get threes off the wire? Of course you can. They're available in a lot of spots. And this is going to be one of them. One of the greatest three-point shooters in the history of the NBA. And the worry with him is, though, that he goes... This is going to be a name which is going to sound like, wow, I forgot about that guy, even though I feel like he was getting drafted in fantasy leagues like about a year ago. Remember Joe Harris? Remember him? Who'd hit like 45% of his threes, and people would go, wow, no turnovers. Look at the threes. He's a great fantasy option. Let's draft him at the end of our drafts. And where is he? Like, literally, what the hell has happened to Joe Harris? I know he had some ankle problems, but he just was done. And Kennard's had a lot of knee problems. I'm not saying that he's going to fall the way that Joe Harris did. But the trend here is not on his side. Let's talk about Lil John Concha. Yeah! Lil John was also one of those players, much like Brandon Clarke, and one of the prior successes of the Grizzlies front office in terms of scouting players who just do stuff that makes teams win. He's 29. Guess what happened? Yeah, cliff. Hit it, dropped off. 10 fantasy points a game, 2.4 points real life, 0.9 assists, 0.7 steals, 8 usage, bro. You might want to take a shot at some point. He hit 37% from 3, but the overall play from him declined in a huge amount. In the past, we'd get someone injured. We'd get Bane injured, you get Morant injured, and go, hey, Johnny Conchard's going to start. He'll play 27 minutes. Let's stream him in. We'll get a 7-7-7, 2 steal, 2 block game. Not happening anymore. Not a real thing. Lost position in the rotation. Someone like Jalen Wells is ahead of him. Kennard is there. Pippen is there. Bringing more of those young guys through. He's 29. He's not an elite prospect. We saw a giant fall off from John Conchard this season. He's still on the team. He still will be on the team, but he's going to be like the 13th, 14th man. And that ability to come in, spot start, limited minutes, be a fantasy option in short periods of time for category leagues, not for points. I think he might be cooked. I don't think we're getting that version of Johnny Conchar anymore. We got some big games out of Big J Huff early this season. He was a two-way guy, and they converted his contract to a full-time contract. Maybe he's the guy. Maybe he's going to be their starting center with Edie and Brandon Clarke not there, and they go Jaren and Huff. That's possible. Huff played 12 minutes a game. He looks like he's 50 years old. He looks older than me. He's only 27, which, again, for someone that you've never heard of until this season, it's old. He'd been around Lakers and Nuggets on their rosters and summer league squads. Orlando, I think, before that, or maybe after that, in the mix there somewhere. He had 7 and 2, but in those 12 minutes, 0.9 blocks. And you'll notice 95th percentile in rim contest numbers. He improved his play at a huge level. He is a legitimate NBA rotation big man. He hit 41% from 3. And no, that's not on like 2 attempts, because he made 1.3 threes per game in just 12 minutes. So he took the 3 and D center to the absolute like nth degree. Let's triple his numbers. That's a per 36. So 2.7 blocks and 3.9 triples. Yeah, that's clearly insane. And you wouldn't be able to maintain that for 36 minutes, nor do I think you're ever going to play 30. But if we see that Grizzlies come in and go, yeah, we're happy starting the season with Huff and Jackson as our starting center, starting 4 and 5, yeah, we're drafting him. Because he only needs 24. Let's double the minutes. Let's make him 24. 2.6 threes, 1.8 blocks, 14 points, 4 rebounds on 79 from the line. Yeah, absolutely, bro. Let's sign up. It is one of those ones, though. If you're talking Dynasty or how you're going to view it from a fantasy perspective, where the shelf life is incredibly short. Because he might do that. He might come in, put big numbers up. You know what happens then? Clarke comes back, Edie comes back, and he's a guy that plays 10 minutes a night. And I don't really think much changes there. But 2 absolute key fantasy pillars there, blocks and threes, with very good free throws and good field goals. And honestly, the steal rate's not terrible. That's a useful player. We just have to see. But he's a sneaky guy. We go, hey, I wouldn't mind last pick, J Huff. Let's see what happens. Because he might actually play 25 minutes for a month to start the season. You might get a top 75 player for that time. And then we jettison. That's where I think we go. He did enough to be a rotation player. Let's talk Cam Spencer. His brother Pat plays for the Golden State Warriors. Spencer was a key part of the UConn title teams. He is an older rookie on a 2-way deal. I thought that when he came in, he absolutely looked like he belonged in the NBA. He hit 36% of his threes. He didn't miss a single free throw. Now, he probably took about 4 of them. He was only 440th in category league rankings. He only played 25 games as a 2-way guy. But if they do lose Kennard, and they're phasing out John Conchar, I can easily see Spencer coming in, 3rd string point guard, some backup 2 minutes, just being someone out there where you go, is he going to kill their team? No. But is he going to kill our team? Also, probably no. And at times, that sort of play can be really useful, especially when the guy starting at point guard is incredibly volatile in terms of availability. So I liked what Spencer did from what was my expectation versus what were the results. I don't like him to say, wow, future star here, look out, Cam Spencer's coming. I'm not saying any of that. What I'm saying is that there was enough there in the minutes that he played where you go, I feel actually okay about him being on the court. I feel okay about his ability to work into being, at best case, a 9th man at some point and being a 21-minute contributor, which is useful for deeper formats. And that's probably about where we leave that with him. Lamar Stevens did not sign with his team until late in the season. And then in the end, he did become a rotation player. He's had moments in the past for the Cavs. I believe he was on the Celtics at one point. He's 28. He had 20 usage. He played 9 minutes. There's not a lot to talk about with Lamar Stevens. He has shown flashes of being a better shooter, but under 30% here, 73 from the line, 0.3 steals and 0.2 blocks. I thought he was, again, if you can find a viable forward, power forward sized player who you can throw out there, who can defend reasonably well, they have spots in rotations. He's not like he's 32, he's 28, he might be back again. Otherwise, he'll sort of float around, he'll play in the G League, somebody will sign him, probably them again, and he'll be useful-ish, and then we'll do the same dance again. There's no real upside in him, but he flashed it enough, and he played in the playoffs some, to be, I think maybe we look to bring him back if the rotation spots make sense. The last guy we're going to talk about in this over 25s version of the Grizzlies is, of course, the GOAT himself, Luka Doncic's dad, Marvin Bagley III. Bagley, who was in Washington and came across to Memphis, had a 20 usage in 9 minutes this season. He averaged 4 points. As per usual, he got no assists, steals, or blocks. He didn't shoot the three ball well. He didn't shoot his free throws well. He's just bad. I don't know what to tell you. He's been bad for years. And that is bad in relation to draft potential, draft stock, draft capital, the way that people view him, the way that general managers view him, the way that his contracts have viewed him. He's just bad. Now, if you were to bring Marvin Bagley in on a league minimum contract because you've got a lack of centers and you have to compare him and Jay Huff, well, I would take Jay Huff in a million every time over Marvin Bagley because Huff shoots and protects the rim, which as a center, I probably want you to do at least one of those things. And Bagley does none of them. So, honestly, there have been times when Bagley has been force-fed minutes to make a team worse, but he can come out there and he can have a double-double. He can block maybe a shot with high field goals, and that has use in fantasy. And that's where we have to always have our opinions in fantasy versus, hey, I think Marvin Bagley is terrible, but it doesn't matter if I think he's terrible because right at the moment, this coach and this general manager is giving him these minutes and the numbers are getting converted. He's not a great fantasy player. In fact, he's a terrible fantasy player on a permanent basis. But sometimes when you're given the extra minutes, you overcome that. I don't think we're ever going to overcome that anymore. I think that might be it for Marvin Bagley. And that's great because I don't really want to have to talk about him again. I am going to talk about the Grizzlies again because we're going to come back and do the second show on the guys that are under 25. But that is all of the over 25s on this Memphis team. Who are we going to talk about in the next one? Santi Aldama, Zach Edey, Jalen Wells, Vince Williams, Greg Jackson II. That is all coming up. So hit the thumbs up, hit the subscribe. Make sure you don't miss the episodes when they come out. Guys, we are done here. Thank you so much for listening, everyone. See ya.